Well, hello there. My name is HW. You are watching Tone Junkie TV. Like, subscribe if you get anything out of the Kemper videos. We're usually talking about the Kemper. Today is no different. I'm playing this beautiful JM Pro. It was a JM Pro when I bought it. Now they call it a classic JM. It's got these really cool P90s in it. I might do a video about these P90s and just P90s in general because I think they're incredible. I think they're amazing. This is what I'm playing. It's right here. It's the 69 Mars Mini Breaker NB3. Shh. I know what you're gonna say. HW, I just bought the Everything Pack. That wasn't in it. What's going on? Sorry. This is one of the very, very, very few times that I'm playing a profile because I'm really into this amp that is not available right now. I usually don't do this to people. I usually don't tease people. But I'm just playing. It's called NB3. It's the normal channel of this little 1930 is the model number. It's actually it's a 1969 Marshall Popular 1930 model, 1930 circuit. And, oh. That is, of course, the neck. Here is the bridge. Little 210s with 10-inch pre-roll Celestion speakers. Can you say tone? I can. Tone! That's right. That's right. Listen, today we're talking about a little parameter here that we haven't talked about on the show before. You know how many parameters we haven't talked about on Tone Junkie TV before? That's right, Kemper. Pretty much almost none. But this one, apparently, we have not talked about before. In fact, who even knows where this parameter came from? I hardly even noticed it before now. No, but I hardly touch it. But let's talk about why and what it is. If you go into the cabinet section of any profile that you like and it sounds good, you're going to notice high shift, low shift. We've talked about high shift and low shift. You can watch our other videos on cab section parameters, high shift, low shift, and getting more out of your Kemper. I don't know what I call the videos, but they're up there. Character. What the heck is it? Well, it's one of the few parameters in the Kemper that's actually hard to describe what it's doing to the sound because what it's doing to the sound will actually have very different effects on different profiles. So it's not as easy as high and low shift where it's doing the same thing. It's moving the highs or the lows up or down, right? It's smearing them across the frequency spectrum. This character is actually also affecting the sort of highs and lows of the frequency spectrum, but it's doing a more technical thing I've never seen this anywhere else. So what is character? You know, character in this case is going to mean how unique sounding is a cabinet. And that's really what we're talking about changing, just the cabinet parameter. So imagine you have an impulse response, or in this case, this cab response, this EQ response thing. It's pretty much it's an IR for our purposes. This cabinet section, and imagine that you can map it out on an EQ graph, that you could show all its frequencies. And maybe it's one with a lot of bass and not a lot of low mids and a lot of high mids and some, high treble and the presence, and it goes like this. But it looks like this. Okay, that's your cab parameter. It has all these peaks and valleys in it. That would be a visual representation of the sound, of the EQ that's in there. So what the character parameter actually does is it looks at all the peaks and the valleys and it decides to exaggerate them or not exaggerate them. And here's how it does it. It sort of exaggerates the peaks and the valleys by widening or narrowing the Q of each of those peaks in what would be eventually just an overall smoothed out EQ curve. So we can either make all of these curves very apparent in our visual graph that we're picturing in our head, or we can just smooth it out. The idea is the more you smooth it out, the less character there is, the less unique that cab becomes. Because you could have 10 cabs that just have a lot of mid-range, but if they have different peaks and valleys all over the place, they'll sound different. But when you eventually flatten them all and just smooth it out, you'll end up with something much more generic. This is basically what the character parameter does. Now, let's hear if we can hear what it's doing to this profile. So here is my 69 Mars NB3 by itself. Very cool. Now I'm going to move the character up. Back to about 0. And can we hear it? What is it doing? How would we describe it? Man, it's tough. You know, it's doing a lot of different things. You can kind of hear it's moving all over the place. I hear when I increase it, like there's definitely a boost in some of the presence. You're definitely getting, it almost makes this guitar sound more like a Telecaster, honestly. And that's because it's increasing some of that higher presence. I also hear a little bit of hollowness in some of the mid-range as we move it up, which tells me there's a little dip in the mid-range and it's exaggerating that. Listen again. Listen for this little bit of like hollow character that kind of comes in the mids. There's a real hollowing out there. I don't know if you can hear that, but this is how it sounds to me in the room. Conversely, if we bring it down, we've now smoothed out all the peaks and valleys. And we're going to get something a lot less character-y. Yeah. Now, what I hear here is a real sort of now a scoopy sound, and we're increasing the presence just as a whole, which tells me this cab has a spike in some present frequencies. When I turn it down, it's exaggerating those spikes more, but when I turn the character up, it's exaggerating those more, but when I turn it down, when it smooths it out, it's taking some of these peaks and just widening the Q, so we're getting more of the entire range of presence frequencies. Does that make sense? Because it's just sort of it's just smoothing it all out. What's better and what's worse here? In this scenario, I like it higher, but I still kind of more like it in the middle. I could boost it up a little bit. I actually overall feels like I'm getting more mid-range when I turn it up. I mean, how are you going to use this, right? This is what we're really talking about. How are we going to use this? In my opinion, it's difficult to suggest how to use a parameter that sort of acts differently on different profiles. And I'll show you that. Let's take a look at that. So let's go to a completely different amplifier. Okay, I've got my 57 5E3 Deluxe J3, which is out now. It's in the 57 Deluxe 5E3, whatever, pack. And it sounds like this with this guitar. Sounds good. It's definitely 5E3-ish, you know? Let's increase the character now. turn it all the way down. Now that's interesting because now I have a completely different opinion of this. In the other profile, the Mars one, I didn't prefer what it did by reducing the character. But here, it makes the amp much more balanced, much more blackfacey. It takes away a lot of that character that is just inherent in this tweed circuit. I mean, listen to this. It's so different. Let me play something a little less aggressive. I mean, that can give these 57 5E3 tweed profiles absolutely a completely different voice. I mean, that's incredible. And that's a beautiful just sounding, you know. That gives a beautiful alternate voicing. I mean, I almost like it better with the cabin, with the character down. Somewhere in the middle would probably be ideal, but some tone, baby. You can feel it. You can feel it when it goes through you. It gives you those chills. That's some tone right there, baby. That is it. Uncle Willie. That's right, Uncle Willie. I mean, gosh, it is there, man. That's the character parameter. You got to get in. Try it out with your guitar. Try it out. The first profile, turning it up, made it sound like a telly. The second profile, it was thick and fat and round, and it's that tweedy kind of deluxe-y goodness. But then all of a sudden we turned the character down, and it made it something else. Now it sounds like it's mic'd way differently. The cab character was kind of removed. That's magic. That is something right there. Whoo, yeah, that's powerful. Powerful. I might have to go revisit some other profiles that I've done and just play with this because it seems to work so differently depending on the cab you're using. And that's really, I guess, the lesson from today's video. Well, thanks so much for watching. I have been HW. HW.